Welcome to This Just In with This Just In as your host, Justin Core. This is a show where I already got our guest to laugh. This is a show where we take a deeper dive into the stories that mean most to you with the people who bring you those stories. Our guest today, let me get this right for maybe the first time, Ryan Antoinette.
Ryan Antoinette.
Not Antoinette.
No, there's no toi. You could put a toi in it.
No, I couldn't.
No?
Your name is said a certain way. Yeah, I think I messed it up. I've messed it up worse before, though. So, Ryan, you're the new weather anchor at KTVB. Welcome.
Thank you. It's been a whirlwind. It's been like 6 weeks of just nonstop learning and growing and so many mistakes.
Yeah, no mistakes. There are no mistakes. Just only, if we didn't have mistakes, then if we had only pork chops, then we wouldn't have hot dogs. Is that the saying? It's probably not a saying. It's probably not a saying.
Okay,
I've already spent
pork
too much.
chop. Okay.
I've already spent too much time on this. We'll get to hot dogs later. You grew up on the south side of Chicago. Any fun Chicago stories?
Any fun Chicago stories? They're all fun stories. Honestly, I come from gritty, storied people.
Yeah,
and just because you have a record doesn't mean you're not a good person. I'm just saying. We all make choices. But it was just
Don't ask
fun.
Ryan if she has a record. It's fine.
Well,
don't ask her. And I'm not either. Fun Chicago stories.
Fun Chicago stories. It was just, it's a lot like Idaho, and I think a lot of people don't realize that.
What?
Yeah, we got a lot of people on the south side who have very traditional family values. They hold family close to the chest, doing the right thing when no one's looking, all those things. They just talk like that. Like we all need medication, like we all have a cold. But good people, fun people.
So I was going to get to that later. Can you demonstrate a legit Chicago accent again?
Sure.
It's just sort of nasally?
It's like Fran Drescher.
Oh,
so
no.
My mom sounded like Fran Drescher. She would say, Ryan Antoinette. And if you cursed in front of her, she'd go, with the language of the mouth. And then my aunt, which, by the way, Princess, her name was Auntie Princess. That's another thing. We got a lot of nicknames on the south side of Chicago. Auntie Princess would say, I'm going to get milk on the Holstead. Holstead. It's Halstead.
Halstead,
but it turns into Hole. Like she's got a disdain for the name. But she doesn't. She just needs the milk.
She hates the Holstead.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna try. You tell me how.
It's
how
an
I do.
ah, not an aw.
You call yourself the Jan Brady of 5 kids? Can you tell me about the Masha, and your other siblings?
You sound like Tom Hanks in Catch Me If You Can.
I don't think that's a compliment.
It's a great movie, though.
It is a great movie, bad accent. All right. Everybody, practice your own Chicago accents at home.
Yes,
I
yes.
never do that again. So, you were, again, Jan Brady of 5 kids.
Yes, I'm the Jan.
Talk to me about your siblings.
Okay, so middle of 5. I've got 2 older sisters.
You were not just the middle child, the super middle child.
Super middle child, yeah.
Wow.
Middle child complex, very much still today. Then I got a younger brother and a younger sister, and all of us are completely different from one another. But so much of us, all of us, we all have these big pieces of mom and dad, and that's kind of how you start to know, like, oh, we are related. I'll look over at my sister, and I'm like, well, hello, Lynn Ann. That was my mother. And they just fly out of our mouths now, our parents. We're that commercial. Is it Progressive where you're starting to become your parents? That's us.
There's a reason people talk about those commercials all the time. By the way, I don't think they're a sponsor of the show, but you can be. We are currently taking sponsorships for This Just In. Thank you, Ryan, for opening that door. It's because so many people identify it with it, right? And when you're young, you're a teen, you're like, never want to become my parents. But then you get older, and it's like, it would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and now it's a source of pride. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And my parents graduated high school in 78, so I grew up with all the music and the movies. My mom's was a pop culture queen. So I have like all the references. Like I'll come out with like a Bob Newhart reference, and someone will be like, "Who's Bob Newhart?" But then that 64-year-old someone in the corner, they're like, "Nah, I see you, girl."
You don't need to be 64 to know who Newhart is. My goodness.
Well, I'm just saying.
I hope not.
We're the exception to the rule, Justin. I've now roped you into that.
We're sort of in that middle, not millennial, not baby boomer, right in between that, Generation X-ish.
There's an ish.
Yeah. Where it's like, hey, we're not caught up in all your stuff, but we're sort of the forgotten generation.
We are the forgotten generation. We're the middle children of generations. Yes.
We are that. How do you think that affected you, being the middle child? Or do you think it did?
Oh, it absolutely did. So I was always too young to hang out with the older kids and too old to hang out with the younger kids. So it was just always kind of me and my lonesome, and I would run lines in the mirror. Like Lucille Ball, I would do these full-on rehearsals or Golden Girls or, Designing Women, whatever Nana had on.
Sure, yeah, I remember all of those.
Yeah, big fan of Matlock. I was just kind of a weirdo. I loved playing Barbies. I loved playing dress up and pretend. I loved doing hair and makeup and all the things that you can do on your own solo. I did, and I would tell myself it's because I want to, not because I have no choice or no one to hang out with me. But I think it was great. I think it made me a better person, being a little awkward, a little weird, shy. I was very shy, as you can probably not imagine now. Mom threw me into T-ball. Were you?
Very shy too.
Really?
Yes.
That one's hard for me to believe.
100%. Yeah, I was the youngest, not a middle child, but yeah, I would play alone a lot as well. I played Lego. Yeah. Why do you think I'm going totally off the cuff now?
We don't need it.
I'm not trying. Well, we kind of
maybe a little. Hold on back. Slow down, girl.
Why do you think that is? Because I've met some other people as well in this business where it's our job to talk to people, to be out there, to be sort of gregarious and perform, who were very shy growing up. Why do you think that is?
I think the more misunderstood you are as a kid, the less you fit in, the more compassionate you become, and the more interested you become in other people's stories, because you've grown up unaccustomed to people really ever investing in yours. Right? You're always just kind of a cast off. And so when you grow up with that, for me, I don't ever want anyone to ever feel that way. And, I can read a room. I can dial it back with the personality and the jokes and stuff like that. But for the most part, I just remember what it was like to feel terribly unseen, misunderstood, and thinking, God, I just never want to do that to someone. I never want to be the reason that someone goes home and is like, oh, what a day, and then there was Ryan. I never want to do that to anybody. So I think it makes you a better storyteller, and I think the harder the knocks, the better the, I don't have a follow-up for this, entryway through the door is,
right. I already messed up the metaphor with the pork chops and the hot dogs. It's okay.
That's really still in the back of
it's still running through it. What an incredible answer. It's turning into a therapy session for me all of a sudden. Before I start to feel things, let's talk about you more. Your mom, great affection for her, of course. Tell me more about her.
So we just lost Mama.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry.
Yep. We just lost her September 8th. Mm-hmm. And it was the night I went to call her. It would have been the 7th. We were about to go see Beetlejuice, which was one of my all-time favorite movies as a kid when it first came out. And that matters, and I'll tell you why in a second. So Mom doesn't answer the phone, and it's because obviously, we're in the final inning for her, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so we go to the movie, and I'm going to call her that next day. I find out we lost her. And so a few weeks passed by, and I had went through a box of my things, and my mom made a journal. She made journals for all of us kids. And mine was covered in cloth. It looked like it was something she had from like 1986, which is when I was born, so that would make sense. And she had all these different entries in there about maybe what I was going to be one day and my quirky personality. And she had all of these observations that even as a mom surprised me. She was just so attentive to detail and so thoughtful, but she was funny and loud and wild and could hurl a profanity like nobody's business. But on the second to last entry in this baby book, she was telling me how Daddy just brought home the VHS of Beetlejuice and how Beetlejuice and The Little Mermaid, they're your favorite movies right now. And in a moment, in a way, I thought, God, what a way to come full circle. And I felt so much regret that night for going to see Beetlejuice and not being able to talk to my mother for that last time. And then I opened this journal, and I'm like, okay, I see what you did there, Lynn Ann.
Yeah.
And that was just her. Yes, and that was just her. And so she filled our house with books and music and fun and laughter and all of our friends. I mean, with 5 kids, all of us had at least 2 to 3 friends with us at all times. So she was very much the neighborhood mom. Mm-hmm. Took care of everybody before herself, of course. Fireman's wife. So she did most of it solo. As a solo mama, not a single mama, but a solo mama. And so she just, she's the reason I became this. So good or bad, it's on her.
You are one of her many legacies. talk a little bit more about your dad. Firefighter, a Marine as well.
Yeah, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Right.
So it's really hard for me to say he was because I'll get corrected. But Dad's pretty cool. By the way, he sings. He sings like
He's
a
singing
BG.
Marine firefighter?
Like a BG, no less.
Oh, no.
I have
So
heard
he's
him
all
hit
high?
high notes like you wouldn't believe. Sober.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But Dad's hilarious, and he just loved my mother to pieces.
Sure.
And I think my favorite thing about when I meet a man, a husband, is there's nothing better, kinder, or more awesome to me than meeting a man who genuinely loves his wife, because you can see it in their kids. Right, you can see it in how their kids grow up and how, the girls expect men to treat them. And as, one of 5, 4 girls, that was a really big deal. And my dad, he set the bar for how I expected men to treat me, and likewise how I should carry myself and handle myself. And I always wanted to hang out at the firehouse when I was little, and I got to, but then there was a cutoff. I think about the time I was about 13, 14 years old. Couldn't do sleepovers at that point, but my brother could. So I'd get to come around for breakfast and hang out with a bunch of, burly, surly firemen and, kind of pick up on things I wasn't supposed to. I heard a lot of Howard Stern growing up. But it was fun, and that's my dad, and he's just the guy. You need him, he's there. Has he done it before? Maybe not, but he's there. He's going to get it done better than if you went looking for anybody else.
You talked about this before. I think that's one of the most important things you can do as a parent, is show your kids how you treat your spouse, and that I think really has a lasting effect on them. All right, we've talked about some serious, heavy stuff, but some good stuff. Now the most serious question of the interview so far: Cubs or Sox? Sox, by the way. I was trying to do a Chicago accent again.
It kind of came out sucks.
Sometimes they do.
It's been a while.
The Chicago Cubs, Major League Baseball teams, Cubs or White Sox?
Okay, I'm a Sox girl, and I used to work at Comiskey. I see you. It was U.S. Cellular for a little while. Now they changed it to something else. I don't even have the patience or the time to learn the new name of the stadium. So Comiskey, I worked at Comiskey, and I love the Sox. Love them, love them, love them. However, I will say the Cubbies in Wrigleyville, man, do they know how to preserve a legacy.
Yeah.
And Harry Carey. So you go there and you just feel the history and the stories, and the stadium looks like it's still 1940-something, and it's awesome. Although I will say I have one criticism for them. There are people who live directly outside of the ballpark in Wrigleyville, and they have these rooftop high-rise apartments.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, it was their side hustle. Like, we were stealing cable, right? But they were, like, selling tickets to the Cubbies game. So now recently...
So, like, people could come sort of rent their apartment for just, like, a short time, but they'd be
just
able to
the
see the game right there.
Yeah, they would just rent out the rooftop. And it was awesome. And I always wanted to get on that rooftop. It was a dream. It was a goal of mine. No. They erected a giant billboard and put it right in front now, so they can't do it. So I'm just saying, it's the one criticism I have for the Cubbies. And cork it, Sammy Sosa, but that's about it. I had to throw that one in. Child of the 90s.
Yeah. Some Mark McGuire fans around here as well. So you said also, finishing up with Chicago now, that deep dish pizza, a tourist thing, because I thought y'all ate that by the truckload. That being said, how about Chicago hot dogs?
Chicago hot dogs are a real thing.
Cat dogs.
Vienna beef. It's got to be Vienna beef. There should be poppy seed on that bun. Now, this is where I'm going to get heat. I don't put like anything on my hot dog. It's ketchup and that's it.
Oh, no.
Every now and again.
You are going to get heat.
No. I know. I'm not a relish pickle girl.
I do as well, but I'm from the Midwest, the actual Midwest, no offense. So, yeah.
What's the actual Midwest if not Chicago?
Nebraska, like where we actually grow things, big city like Chicago. Come on, what are you doing?
Yeah, Becky's from Nebraska. Full House reference right there.
She is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
she put you guys on the map. And then you
it wasn't
came along.
Johnny Carson. Again, that's a reference that dates me. Trying to move on. Okay, so first time my family from Nebraska visited Chicago, had deep dish pizza because it is a tourist thing. We were tourists, so it was okay. Like, had it delivered the hotel room, and then like dude left, and it's like we didn't have plates, like utensils, anything like that.
Do you use utensils for pizza normally, Justin?
Not normally,
Do
but
you
for
cut
deep
your
dish
pizza?
pizza, it's essentially a soup, in a cheese and bread bowl. We didn't have any way to eat it, so people were like trying to eat it, like scoop it into their mouth, and they used like the white towels from the bathroom to like clean up the mess. So they were like, definitely people came in after that and was like, somebody got offed.
There was a
here
struggle
in
here.
this Chicago hotel room. Somebody got whacked. Anyway, so if you were the person cleaning up that room after my family got through there, it was just deep dish pizza. All right. You've been a military spouse for 20 years, moving all over the world. What were some of your stops?
Oh my goodness. So it's funny. I didn't get to move around as much as some of my girlfriends and our other Army family friends did, but living in Germany, by far,
Germany.
the most amazing experience of my life. Wow. And my husband, so his first tour was, I want to say, 08. Okay. Yep. Got in country, I want to say February 4th, 2008. Okay. And at that point, I knew very little about the Army. I mean, I was a veteran's daughter, but I didn't grow up as a Marine kid, so there was no context for me. So he's downrange, Solder City. They've written books about it, by the way. An amazing conflict. You should check it out. Mm-hmm. My husband was a huge part of that. But I was waiting and waiting desperately for my orders to come through from his company command because I wanted to be there the day that he got back from his first tour, and I was going to wear the big yellow ribbon around my whole body. I would be the oak tree, essentially.
Oh, nice.
And so the orders never came in. I never got what's called command sponsorship. And so I thought, excuse my language, screw it, I'm going. Mm-hmm. I am going. I'm 21 at this point. I'm a hairdresser, and I had already packed up all my stuff. I told the Navy from Great Lakes they were going to come pick it up. I was like, you do that, I got to go do this. I called a travel agency, AOK Travel, in Chicago. Still open, by the way.
Free ad.
Yeah.
Again, you can sponsor us. This just is KTVB Plus. Go ahead.
AOK. Wait, how are they surviving in this day and age? But they are, nonetheless. So I hop on a plane. I don't know the language. I got on my first Lufthansa flight.
Yeah, sure.
And I showed up the day after he got back from his first tour. And that's what kicked off the adventure. Now, his command, when we came in the next day, I was like, hi, I'm here. Hello. They're like, yeah, but you're not supposed to be. I'm like, there's no return to sender on this one.
Oh, no.
I'm here. We're going to figure this out.
You showed up on a military base.
I did. I absolutely
you guys
did.
Figure this out. It's like,
and they did, which, by the way, someone in Rear D dropped that ball, so they're the ones who caught heat for it. But from then on, I mean, it was 4 years of, hey, you got a 3-day weekend? Let's go to Spain.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to?
Awesome.
We did D-Day in Normandy. I got to
way.
walk the beaches
No
of
way.
Normandy on D-Day.
Wow.
I went into Nazi bunkers and foxholes, and it was amazing. I mean, we toured Dachau. It was the first camp, the first concentration camp that the Army liberated. Yeah. And so I got to live in the middle of all of this history. I actually lived where Hitler trained his troops. And so there were so many families obviously directly affected by the Holocaust. And so our landlords, one of them, they would tell us stories about what it was like. They were children when it happened. And so for me, it was more than just being able to hit up Barcelona on a 3-day. It was, wow, this is history. This is something that my country was a part of, and veteran's daughter, veteran's wife, I mean, at the time, service member's wife. I was I felt so privileged and blessed. Mm-hmm. And for me, just the people that I got to meet along the way, icing on the cake. My Army family from way back when, they're still very much my Army family today, even as my husband's transitioning out. And actually, the first time I really heard and thought about Idaho was because of one of my military spouse girlfriends.
Oh,
yep.
Fantastic.
Miss Lydia, she's a teacher out at Mountain Home. She told me all about Blackfoot, Idaho. I had no idea what that was, and I was like, oh, how quaint, Idaho. Had no idea that at some point in my story, this is where my life was going to go.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why she was trying to send you to Blackfoot, Idaho. You don't want
I
to go
don't know
there.
that she was, and
Idaho,
she's in Mountain
great.
Home now.
We're happy to have you here. Yeah, absolutely. Talked about your husband. He has a career in special operations.
Yeah.
My God, is he Jason Bourne?
You know, he could have been. There's a quick, interesting story about that.
Okay.
My daughter was about 6 months old. We're driving along. He's already in the small community, and he got a call, and I don't know what the call is, but I could hear him taking it. He hangs up and he tells me it's a 4-letter organization that does not exist, and they were interested in him. And so I, knowing the Jason Bourne stories and movies already, I was like, do it! You should totally do this. Like, you can be the mailman. And he goes, no. He goes, you have no idea what we'd be signing up for. I would essentially miss everything for our daughter. At the time, she was a little bitty. He goes, I'd miss everything for you. So he didn't do it. But I will say, he kept going further and further into the special operations community and missed it anyway. So kind of a toss-up the way it turned out. But again, that road led us here, so no regrets.
So he was kind of Jason Bourne. You have 2 wonderful kids who you say like dogs, cheese, and sleep. How did you manage to get 2 kids who like to sleep?
God bless them. Well, the first thing we did when my daughter was born, we came home, we started running the vacuum, we got our labs all riled up, and we taught her how to sleep through the noise. And so from that point, a car, a semi could run through the living room. The kid would sleep right through it. Same thing for our little guy, so that's how that happened. But we were very intentional about it because we grew up with parents who had the quiet house. And I remember before I had kids, I'd walk in and they'd be like, Junior's napping on the other side of the house. You can't even breathe loud. And I just remember saying to my husband, I'm like, we can't do that. Like, I'm going to be the mom. I'm loud. I'm never quiet. So that's how that one happened. And it's probably the only, like, pre-parenting judgment that I carry now as I'm a little more seasoned. Not as seasoned as some, but we're in middle school now with my daughter. And wow.
Worst time of my life. No big deal. Anyway.
For you or your kids? Both?
This is about you. You got your degree from Excelsior University, which sounds like a school for superheroes. Are you a superhero? And if this is just your secret identity, you can just say nothing.
Nothing.
Message received. People might be new to seeing you, but not new to hearing you. Been on the radio here for 3 years. How'd you get into radio? We've already sort of talked about you listen to Stern, back on the... You probably couldn't really say the stuff that Stern said back in the day.
Oh, but I did. And if I would get in trouble, I would be like, well, I heard it with Dad in the car. So, Mad Cow, I heard all of it, yeah.
Quick heads up, you probably can't say that stuff here, though.
Yeah, and that's been hard.
Oh, no.
Like, the internal editor is working overtime as I'm doing the weather, but, it's fine.
You wound up doing the weather here. How did that happen?
That was an accident. Accident.
No.
Yeah, so I had just finished.
But not one we need to fix because you're doing great.
Well, I'm trying. The weather, like when the last 2 weeks has thrown the kitchen sink at me.
Yeah.
We've had the never-ending inversions.
Yes.
Having to understand that. And Rachel Garceau has been the world's most kind, compassionate patient teacher. So God bless her. But
she also had a great episode of This Just In with Justin Core, again, looking for sponsorships. Sorry, go ahead.
Possibly progressive. So radio happened. First, my husband was still in. He transitioned from being active duty to then he went to being part-time, and then he became a contractor, right? So that whole time I was like, well, I don't want to outsource myself as a mother, and I decided I wanted to stay home with my daughter. So I did part-time jobs and things like that, and I was finishing school online for the most part. And so I always wanted radio, though. It was always going to be writing and radio. That's what I first wanted to go to school for when I was 18. But again, I thought with my husband already out of the picture for the most part, I don't want to put my daughter through that. And so I waited. And then when I finally graduated from the superhero university.
Excelsior.
Yeah. Sponsored by Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
I remember going door to door with my resume. KTVB was one of those places. And I met this lady in the parking lot named Jessica Hagan. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know who she was from Eve, right? And I had no idea.
So just someone in our parking lot.
Just someone in the parking lot. I didn't know that she had become the president GM here at that point.
She's general manager, which essentially means she runs the entire building. Sales,
she the boss.
Production, yeah.
Yeah.
The boss is boss, yes.
Absolutely, right? But she was so kind, and so I remember walking up to her like, excuse me, I'm Ryan. I'm really interested in getting into media, and I think she had a meeting to go to, but she was so kind, and she goes, I got to go, but if you want to connect, let me know. She goes, we'll get together. We can talk about media or just whatever. So that was 3 years ago. And right after I met Jessica, I got my opportunity to work on Mix 106. And so, I mean, from that point, I just kind of went through the radio pipeline. I did 2 live morning shows, a live afternoon show. It was a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a lot of on-the-cuff kind of, hey, go, girl. Like, they threw a mic at me, and they were like, okay, now talk. And I did. Not saying that what came out was necessarily all that jazzy, but, it happened. So I leave
Fine,
Mix.
I'm sure.
Well, I had moments. I think I had moments. I think when I was leaving Mix, that's when I was getting my most comfortable on air. But there were other components at play where I was like, I think it's time for me to try a different medium. And so Mom passes away. I come home, and it's the week after the funeral, and I'm like, you know what? What do I have to lose? Mom died. She wasn't even 64. I think it's time to make the change. I'm going to jump in. So I emailed all of the major media execs out here in Boise, Jessica Hagan being one of them. And I reached out to her on LinkedIn, and I said, listen, I'm not asking for a job, but you probably don't even remember me, but 3 years ago I bumped into you in the parking lot, and you said if I ever had questions, I could ask them, so you want to have coffee? And she said yes. So I came in. I had coffee with her in her big, gorgeous office with the big window that looks into the courtyard. Very fancy. And she's talking to me, and I realized at one point, I'm not actually in the conversation. I'm just kind of like, wow, I'm here at KTVB. This is awesome. And I hear her say something to the likes of, what do you think of the weather? I thought she was saying the weather.
Just like the weather outside right now.
But in my mind, what I heard in my out-of-body experience was, the weather. And I thought, well, in my head, I should have worn a coat today. It's kind of dreary. But then I snap into it, and she goes, weather. And that's when she said, if you're interested in weather, we have some positions that aren't posted but are available. And from there, she took me around the station. I got to meet Gary, our news director. Yes? No?
I don't know exactly what Gary's title is. He's been here forever,
He
though.
does everything.
Great guy. Yeah.
He does everything.
He's not technically the news director. I don't think so. You know what? I don't know what people's titles are anymore. But yes, been a manager for a long time, been here forever.
Well, I've only been here 6 weeks, so I feel like I get a pass. But
you get a pass. I don't.
So next day they threw me on the green screen and said, hey, girl, why don't you give this a go? And I did. And it was fun, and I thought I'd be scared. I wasn't, and I just went with it. And then a few weeks later, they were like, hey, we'd really like you to join the team. And that's kind of what that was, in a very roundabout, messy
And now
way.
You're here doing weather, and you're talking for a living, and you're great at talking because we're going to talk about more stuff, including 7 Cares Day and run a 7 Cares package.
Did I overtalk us?
It's
Dang.
fine. It's fine. Just means you're in the
Is
right
it, though?
business, Ryan. Well, speaking of talking, and people maybe if they want to talk to me, we've been asking for comments and questions here on the show for a month or so. Finally, we got one. Julie wrote in to say, quote, Justin is not funny.
What?
End quote. Thanks for watching, Julie. Ryan,
Not really a question, Jules.
what's your take?
Well, Julie girl, I'm sorry you completely missed it on that one because I think you're hilarious. You're the most radio person in news I've ever met. And that's high compliments coming from radio.
She's saying I have a face for radio. So if you have a comment or a question like that, text it to 208-321-5614. Use the hashtag Justin or Justin. Ryan, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks
We're going to
for
need a part
having
2
me.
and part 3 probably to get all this in.
Apparently
You're the
so.
best. Welcome. People love you. See you next time on This Just In.